This is When Gen X Ruled the Multiplex, in which I dissect some of the films us Gen Xers watched when we were young and idealistic, before we became old and cranky. The powerhouse trio of brothers Jerry and David Zucker and their childhood friend Jim Abrahams created some of the most enduring slapstick comedies of the 80s, including Airplane, The Naked Gun, Ruthless People, and today's pick, 1984's Top Secret, which the trio of Zucker-Abrahams-Zucker, sometimes known simply as Zaz, collectively wrote and directed. Martin Burke also shares a screenwriting credit with Zaz. The 1980 comedy Airplane, which was tremendously successful, was a direct parody of the 1957 film 0 Hour. Zucker-Abrahams-Zucker even bought the rights to 0 Hour so they could directly lift scenes, dialogue, and character names for Airplane. Top Secret isn't spoofing any one specific film. It's a parody of World War II spy films and Elvis Presley musicals. That confused potential viewers, who weren't quite sure what they were getting themselves into, and they weren't helped any by a misleading ad campaign, which mostly just showed photos of a cow. Top Secret bombed at the box office, yet remains a favorite of Gen Xers because it is silly, chaotic, irreverent, and very funny. We open in East Germany, where a British spy named Agent Cedric wrestles with a German soldier on top of a moving train. The German soldier fails to notice as the train heads under a moving bridge and smacks right into it. Instead of incapacitating the soldier, the bridge smashes to bits right around him while the soldier remains undamaged. Top Secret is 90 minutes of rapid-fire, expectation-flouting sight gags like this one, and I am not going to describe very many of them for you, because the whole charm of sight gags lies in seeing them, not in having someone tell you about them. Agent Cedric is played by legendary screen star Omar Sharif, known for Dr. Zhivago and for Lawrence of Arabia, for which he was nominated for an Oscar. At East German High Command, General Streck, played by Jeremy Kemp, consults with Colonel von Horst, played by A Clockwork Orange's Warren Clark, about the upcoming East German Cultural Festival, for which the United States is sending a special representative, a heartthrob singer named Nick Rivers. We see a music video for Nick Rivers' new hit song, Skeet Surfing. The song itself is a parody of a medley of Beach Boys songs, while the video features scenes of surfers with shotguns who are skeet surfing while riding the waves. It is as silly as it sounds. Nick Rivers is played by Val Kilmer, whom we have seen already in Real Genius and Top Gun. This was Kilmer's big screen debut. The film's creative team saw Kilmer, who is a Juilliard-trained actor, in a play in New York, The Slab Boys, which also starred Kevin Bacon and Sean Penn. Top Secret features a whole bunch of songs, and Kilmer does all his own singing. Because it's spoofing both World War II films and Elvis Presley films, Top Secret visually references the 1940s as well as the 50s and 60s. But we are clearly not meant to take the period cars, clothes, and decor literally, as we can see from this glimpse of the hit music charts. Nick Rivers tops the list, followed shortly by Duran Duran. Also, there's this amazing lineup scheduled to perform at Madison Square Garden. On a train heading to East Berlin for the cultural festival, Nick Rivers does a bang-up job of painting the scenery as glimpsed from a fast-moving train. Accompanying Nick is his agent, Martin, played by Billy J. Mitchell. The East German Cultural Festival kicks off with a big opening ceremony. Agent Cedric secretly meets with his contact, a blind vendor of novelty toys, who tells him there's a traitor somewhere within the band of rebels that form the resistance to the East German regime. The vendor, who is played by character actor Ian McNeice, tells Cedric that an important scientist named Dr. Flamand is being held captive by the East Germans, who are forcing him to build a new weapon. He urges Cedric to go to the ballet to meet the secret leader of the resistance, known only as the Torch. Immediately after this meeting, Agent Cedric's driver double-crosses him and drives him to a junkyard where he is crushed inside his car. Nick Rivers shows up at a fancy restaurant where he orders a vintage bottle of 84 Ripple Blanc, Ripple being an exceedingly cheap and low-quality fortified wine popular in the 70s and 80s, which eats through his glass. A beautiful young resistance member named Hillary meets with the blind vendor. He's murdered by an unseen assailant while Hillary escapes into the restaurant. To hide her from the authorities, Nick claims she's his date. They hit the dance floor and do an elaborate synchronized dance routine while getting to know each other. Hillary is played by English actress Lucy Gutteridge, who is best known in the US for this role. At the restaurant, Nick takes the stage and bursts into a rousing rendition of Tutti Frutti, the 1955 hit by Little Richard. Backed by an orchestra, Nick dances on the piano and swings from the chandeliers and brings down the house. Cedric, who has been compacted into a cube along with his vehicle by the car crusher at the junkyard, staggers into Hillary's hotel room to tell her about her father's imprisonment. Cedric is in no shape to meet the Torch at the ballet, ballet, so Hillary goes in his place. Nick also happens to be in attendance at the ballet. He spots Hillary meeting with a strange man who pulls a gun on her. Nick wrestles with her attacker and throws him over the balcony. Nick and Hillary hide in the theater's prop room, which turns out to be a room filled with propellers. Nick hustles Hillary to safety and is apprehended by armed soldiers, who are played by this film's trio of directors. Martin visits Nick in jail. Martin has been having trouble bringing his wife to orgasm, so Nick gives him the anal intruder, which is an absolutely terrifying-looking sex toy. Please note the photo of Cher hanging on the wall in Nick's cell, because at the time of filming, Val Kilmer and Cher were dating. After being tortured in jail, Nick learns that Martin has been killed in an unfortunate accident. He forgot that European voltage is higher than it is in the US, and he electrocuted himself with, yep, the anal intruder. Nick breaks out of his cell and discovers a secret laboratory where Dr. Flamond, Hillary's father, is being held captive. Dr. Flamond is played by Michael Gough, whom we have seen playing Alfred Pennyworth to Michael Keaton's Batman in Tim Burton's 1989 Batman, and who would also play Alfred Pennyworth to Val Kilmer's Batman in Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever. Nick is recaptured by soldiers and sentenced to death by firing squad, though he's rescued at the last possible moment so he can perform at the cultural festival. At the concert, Nick sings How Silly Can You Get and Spend This Night With Me, while lovesick women scream in near hysteria, and while that one poor solo guy looks bored out of his gourd. At the end of the concert, soldiers burst in to take Nick back into custody, but he's rescued by Hillary. Hillary takes Nick to a Swedish bookstore run by a proprietor played by horror legend Peter Cushing, best known to Gen Xers as Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars. The bookseller offers Hillary and Nick shelter for the night and tells them to go to the Resistance's potato farm in the morning. Two interesting things about this scene. First, there's a splendidly dumb sight gag involving a magnifying glass, which is a reference to The Curse of Frankenstein, a 1957 horror film that starred Peter Cushing. And second, the entire scene was filmed in reverse order and then played backward. In the bookstore, Hillary tells Nick about her life. When she was a child, her boat sank during a cruise, and she was stranded for years on a tropical island with a young boy named Nigel, who became her lover. Nigel disappeared one day while out fishing, and Hillary never saw him again. This is a prolonged parody of The Blue Lagoon, a 1980 romance that starred a young Brooke Shields and Christopher Atkins. Nick tells Hillary how he got lost as a child in a department store and never saw his mother again. He plays her the first song he ever wrote, the Elvis Presley ballad Are You Lonesome Tonight, which is reworked as a jingle for Macy's. This makes Hillary swoon with passion. In the morning, Hillary and Nick arrive at the potato farm, which is run by a farmer named Albert Potato, who introduces them to the members of the Resistance. There are a great many Resistance members, and they all have very authentically French names, like Détente and Montage and Latrine and Croissant and Soufflé. Primarily, we need to know Duquois, played by Harry Ditson, Chocolate Mousse, played by Eddie Tego, and Déjà Vu, played by Jim Carter, best known as Mr. Carson on Downton Abbey. Nick and Hillary meet the Torch, who turns out to be Hillary's lost love Nigel, who, despite being rescued from the island years ago, is still dressed like Christopher Atkins in The Blue Lagoon. Nigel is played by Christopher Villiers. The potato farm is raided by East German soldiers. The Resistance fends the attackers off, and they regroup at the East German equivalent of Pizza Hut. Aware there's a traitor in their midst, Nigel airs his suspicions that Nick might be an East German spy. Nick proves he's a genuine American rock idol by performing his hit song Straighten Out the Rug, to the delight of some East German fans. On a quest to rescue Hillary's father, Nick and some Resistance members parachute into the prison. Nick and Hillary fall in love mid-descent. Nigel and Duquois disguise themselves as a cow to sneak into the prison, while Nick and the others sneak in through more traditional means. Nick rescues Dr. Flamond from the prison right before Dr. Flamond finishes his very impressive escape tunnel. Nigel reveals himself as the traitor. He takes Hillary hostage and escapes in a truck. Nick takes after him on a motorcycle, and Nick and Nigel plunge into a river and have a fairly epic fistfight in an underwater Wild West saloon. Nick emerges victorious, and he and Hillary arrive at the rendezvous spot just in time to catch a plane to America with Hillary's father. Top Secret was released in US theaters in June of 1984, which turned out to be a huge month for big summer films. It was crushed at the box office by The Karate Kid, Ghostbusters, Gremlins, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. It eventually found its audience on home video, where viewers could watch it repeatedly to catch all the hundreds of rapid-fire jokes and sight gags buried within. Many of those jokes and gags are clever, many are in highly dubious taste, and many are downright stupid. But I mean stupid in a positive sense, because there are times when stupid humor is hilarious. Jerry Zucker, David Zucker, and Jim Abrahams are each still active in the film industry, though they no longer work as a collective unit. Zucker-Abrahams-Zucker are way up there in the pantheon of film parodists, along with the master himself, Mel Brooks, who gave us Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, and Spaceballs. Inspired by the successes of Brooks and by Zucker-Abrahams-Zucker, The 90s and 2000s were glutted with absolutely half-assed parodies that showed the high degree of difficulty involved in making a film like Top Secret and nailing that balance between stupid and clever. For every brilliant parody, like Edgar Wright's zombie film spoof Shaun of the Dead or his action film spoof Hot Fuzz, there are dozens of parody films that don't really try very hard. Along with being part of a movement responsible for unleashing all of these parodies on the world, Top Secret's other enduring legacy is that it gave us Val Kilmer as a fully formed movie star right from his debut role. This is his very first film appearance, and he is the star. His second film appearance, not counting an ABC after-school special in which he starred with Michelle Pfeiffer and which looks utterly bonkers, was Real Genius, in which he was also the star. His third film role was Top Gun, which was the biggest film of 1986. This is a crazy start to a film career, and it kicked off a 20-year stretch in which Val Kilmer was one of Hollywood's brightest stars. Which makes sense, because apart from being very handsome, Kilmer is also funny and charming in Top Secret. It's a star-making performance. The favorite film of master music parodist Weird Al Yankovic, Top Secret tanked at the box office, yet remains a favorite of Gen Xers, who understand that sometimes dumb humor is the very best kind of humor. Next time, I would like someone to hold my hand because I'm feeling a little overwhelmed at the thought of facing my next film, David Lynch's Dune, the epic sci-fi bomb from 1984. I hope you'll face it with me, thank you for joining me, and please enjoy your week.